Get your filthy shadow off my table, kid. Eleanor spat, her voice as sharp as a razor. I may be paralyzed, but I still have enough power to buy your jail cell for life. Leo didn't flinch. His steady gray eyes met hers with a calmness that was unsettling. He pointed to Eleanor's untouched prime rib. Give me your leftovers, and in 1 hour you will stand, Leo whispered. Eleanor let out a dry, mocking laugh. The best surgeons in the world failed me for a year. You think a plate of scraps is the price for a miracle? Get out before I lose my temper. Leo simply gave a faint, knowing smile. You have billions of dollars, but you can't take a single step. I have nothing, but I know the way home. Do we have a deal, or are you too afraid to try? Welcome to Scarred but Pure. Today, we witness a collision between arrogant wealth and an ancient secret hidden in the shadows of New York. Can a miracle truly be bought with a plate of leftovers? If you believe that hope can be found in the most unexpected places, please hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell. Before we continue, I have to ask, which city and country are you watching this from? Write it in the comments below. I'll be hearting the most touching responses. New York City is a concrete jungle that knows no mercy, and Eleanor Sterling was its queen, until a helicopter crash in the East River robbed her of her ability to walk. For 1 year, she lived in a private hell. Her luxury penthouse on Fifth Avenue became a golden cage, and her wealth felt like a pile of scrap paper that couldn't help her stand. At the restaurant, Eleanor's rage reached a boiling point. But something in Leo's eyes made her stop. A strength that money couldn't buy. Fine. Take it, Eleanor pushed the plate toward him aggressively. But if you are lying, I will make sure you never see the sun again. Leo wrapped the steak in a tattered plastic bag and looked at her. Follow me to Central Park. If you want to walk, you have to leave your golden throne behind. Under the shade of the ancient oaks in Central Park, Leo asked Eleanor's security guards to step back. It was just the two of them. Leo knelt in front of her wheelchair, taking off Eleanor's designer shoes that hadn't touched the ground in a year. He reached into his backpack and pulled out an old notebook and several long silver needles. Your brain has forgotten your legs, Leo said as he began to apply pressure to specific nerve points. It turned off the lights because it was too scared of the pain from the crash. I'm just here to flick the switch. Leo began to insert the needles with the precision of a master surgeon. Eleanor felt nothing at first. She began to mock him again. You're just a street rat looking for attention. This is a joke. Leo didn't stop. Instead, he began to provoke her. He mentioned Julian Thorne, Eleanor's business rival who was currently throwing parties to celebrate her downfall. He told her how the people of New York were already forgetting her name. Are you going to let them win? Leo shouted. Are you going to die in this chair while they tear your empire apart? Stand up, Eleanor. Run from the wolves. Suddenly, a sharp sensation hit Eleanor. It wasn't normal pain, it was like a bolt of white-hot lightning shooting from her big toe, up her spine, and exploding in her brain. I felt that, Eleanor whispered, her breath hitching. Tears began to stream down her frozen face. Don't look at the chair. Look at the fire. Leo commanded. Push, Eleanor. Push. With every ounce of her soul, Eleanor gripped the armrests of her wheelchair. Her withered muscles began to shake violently. With a scream that pierced the silence of the park, Eleanor Sterling stood. For the first time in a year, she felt the New York earth beneath her feet. She took one wobbly step, then a second. She broke down, sobbing as she held herself upright. When she turned to thank Leo, the boy was already sitting on a nearby bench, feeding the steak to 2 starving stray dogs. Leo looked at Eleanor and said, The steak was for my dogs. The pain was for you. Now you know, you are no longer a victim. Eleanor realized a crushing truth. Leo was the son of Dr. Michael Vance, a brilliant neurosurgeon who had been framed by his colleagues and died in poverty. Leo hadn't come to beg, He had come to prove that his father's legacy was worth more than every skyscraper in Manhattan. Eleanor didn't let Leo go back to the streets. She used her power to clear his father's name and built the Vance Memorial Hospital, the most advanced neurological center in the world. Eleanor remained the wealthiest woman in New York, but now, she walked with her own feet and a new purpose, ensuring that no one loses hope just because they lost their strength. The news of Eleanor Sterling walking again spread through the elite circles of Manhattan like a wildfire. But while the public called it a miracle, one man saw it as a threat: Julian Thorne. He had spent the last year liquidating Eleanor's assets, preparing to stage a hostile takeover of Sterling Global. To him, Leo wasn't a hero, he was a variable that needed to be erased. 2 days after the incident in Central Park, Julian Thorne's black SUV pulled up to the Vance family's dilapidated garage in Brooklyn. He didn't come with a doctor, he came with 4 men in suits who looked more like soldiers than assistants. Julian stepped into the dusty garage, covering his nose with a silk handkerchief. He found Leo sitting on a crate, sharpening a small silver tool. "I'll give you $10 million for the notebook, kid," Julian said, his voice cold and transactional. "Hand over your father's research, and you can disappear to a private island. Refuse, and you won't even have this garage to call home." Leo didn't even look up. "My father's research isn't for sale to men who build empires on graves, Mr. Thorne. You should leave. The air here is too honest for you." Julian's face twisted in rage. "Grab him," he barked to his men. "And find that book." But before a single hand could touch Leo, the roar of a high-performance engine echoed through the alley. A silver Bentley screeched to a halt, blocking Julian's exit. Eleanor Sterling stepped out, not in a wheelchair, but leaning on a sleek black carbon fiber cane. She walked with a slight limp, but her eyes held the power of a woman who had just returned from the dead. "I believe you're trespassing, Julian," Eleanor said, her voice echoing with a chill that made the air turn to ice. Julian laughed nervously. "Eleanor, you look recovered. I was just offering the boy a business deal. Surely you understand the value of his father's work." "I understand that Michael Vance was a genius you destroyed because he wouldn't lie for your pharmaceutical trials," Eleanor replied, stepping between Julian's men and Leo. "And I understand that if you don't leave this property in 10 seconds, I will call in every debt Thorne Industries owes to the Sterling Bank. You'll be bankrupt before you reach the Brooklyn Bridge." Julian sneered, gesturing to his men. "You think a cane and a child can stop me? I want that notebook." One of the men lunged for Leo, but Leo moved with a speed Julian didn't expect. He didn't fight with fists, he fought with precision. In a flash, Leo tapped a pressure point on the man's wrist. The guard let out a cry of pain as his entire arm went numb, dropping to his knees instantly. "The body has its own defenses, Mr. Thorne," Leo said, standing up. "My father taught me that too." Eleanor didn't wait. She signaled to the shadows behind her. 6 of her elite security detail stepped out, weapons ready but hidden. Julian realized he had brought a knife to a gunfight. "This isn't over, Eleanor," Julian hissed, backing away toward his car. "The world won't let a boy with those secrets stay free for long." "You're right," Eleanor said, watching him leave. "But as long as he's with me, the world will have to go through me first." Once the SUV had sped away, Eleanor turned to Leo. She saw the fear he was trying so hard to hide. For all his wisdom, he was still just a boy. "He won't stop, Leo," she said softly. "He wants the power your father discovered, but he doesn't want the responsibility of the lives it saves." Leo looked at the old notebook in his hands. "My father died protecting this. He said if this fell into the wrong hands, it would become a way to control people, not cure them." Eleanor took a deep breath, looking at her own legs that were now strong enough to stand. "Then we don't just hide it. We build it. We're going to open a clinic that the world can't touch. We're going to finish what your father started, right here in the heart of New York." Leo finally smiled, a real boyish smile. I think I'd like that, Eleanor. But as they drove back toward Manhattan, they didn't see the drone hovering high above the alley, its camera fixed on Leo's backpack. The war for the Sterling legacy had just begun, and the shadows were getting longer. The grand ballroom of the Sterling Plaza was a sea of diamonds, silk, and the most powerful faces in New York. It was the night of the Sterling Global Gala, but the air was thick with tension. Julian Thorne stood on the stage, a predatory smirk on his face. He had orchestrated a coup, convincing the board of directors that Eleanor was mentally unstable and being manipulated by a mysterious street urchin. "Ladies and gentlemen," Julian announced into the microphone, his voice dripping with fake concern. "We all want to believe in miracles. But the truth is, Eleanor Sterling has been deceived. This boy Leo is using unregulated, dangerous methods. For the safety of our company and this city, I am moving to have Eleanor removed from leadership tonight." The crowd whispered. Eleanor stood at the back of the room, her grip tightening on her cane. But beside her, Leo wasn't looking at the crowd. He was looking at the VIP table near the stage. There sat Senator Maxwell, the man holding the power to approve Julian's hostile takeover. Suddenly, the senator gasped, clutching his chest. His face turned a terrifying shade of blue. He collapsed onto the table, gasping for air. "He's having a stroke," someone screamed. "Call an ambulance." Julian froze on stage. He was a businessman, not a healer. He watched as the senator's life began to slip away. If the senator died here, Julian's deal would die with him. "Stay back," Julian shouted at the crowd. "Wait for the paramedics." But Leo didn't wait. He let go of Eleanor's hand and ran. He ducked under the velvet ropes and slid across the floor, reaching the senator in seconds. "Get away from him, you brat," Julian yelled, jumping off the stage to grab Leo. "You'll kill him." Eleanor stepped forward, her voice ringing like a bell through the silent hall. "Let him through. If you touch that boy, Julian, you're signing a death warrant for everyone in this room." The guards hesitated. Leo ignored the chaos. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a single thin silver needle, the last legacy of his father. He looked at the senator's spasming neck. He had only one shot. If he missed by a millimeter, it was over. Leo closed his eyes for a heartbeat, hearing his father's voice. "The heart follows the mind, Leo. Find the path." With a lightning-fast motion, Leo inserted the needle into the base of the senator's skull. The room gasped. For 5 long, agonizing seconds, the senator was still. Then, he let out a massive, shuddering breath. The blue in his face faded. His eyes opened, clear and focused. I can breathe," the senator whispered, his hand reaching out to Leo's arm. The ballroom erupted. This wasn't a story in a newspaper. This was a miracle performed in front of New York's elite. Eleanor walked up to the stage, no longer leaning on her cane. He stood tall, her presence commanding the room. She looked at Julian, who was shaking with fear and humiliation. "You wanted to talk about safety, Julian?" Eleanor said into the mic. "You wanted to talk about who is fit to lead? This boy just did what all your billions couldn't. He saved a life. And your deal? It's dead." Julian Thorne was escorted out by security in handcuffs, charged with the illegal medical trials that had led to Dr. Vance's death, evidence Eleanor had finally unearthed using her restored power. As the sun rose over the Manhattan skyline the next morning, Leo and Eleanor stood on the balcony of her Fifth Avenue penthouse. "You did it, Leo," Eleanor said softly. "The world knows your father's name now. The Vance Memorial Hospital opens its doors tomorrow." Leo looked at the rusted tin box in his hands. He took the silver needle and placed it inside. "My father said that the greatest wealth isn't what you have in the bank. It's the people who can stand because you gave them a hand." Eleanor smiled, looking down at her feet, then out at the city she once hated but now loved. "I think I'm finally beginning to understand that." Leo looked out at the streets below, where thousands of people were starting their day. He wasn't a street rat anymore, and she wasn't a victim. They were the new heart of New York, two souls, once scarred, but now pure.